Welcome to the Ringer NFL Show. I'm your host, Sheil Kapadia. Week 5, Sunday in the books. We just got finished watching the Patriots upset the Bills. I've got Diante Lee from the Ringer here with me. We've got 3 big questions from Sunday. We're going to talk about which fan base should be the most excited about how its quarterback played. We're going to talk about which previously unbeaten team should be more concerned with its first loss, the Eagles or the Bills, and which fan base should be most bummed by the way its team played on Sunday. Because Diante, I got to think there are going to be some fan bases who are going to maybe be checking out Saturdays a little bit more and looking at those draft prospects and thinking about, all right, where are we picking again? Because today was a bad day for a lot of teams in the NFL.
100%. I feel like when I was doing the power rankings last year, it got really easy, probably around Halloween, because you could kind of really see where the tiers are separating. It feels like we're getting there a lot earlier in NFL seasons than we ever have before, for teams letting you know within 3 to 4 weeks, like, hey, not a contender over here. Don't got to worry about us anymore. Focus your attention elsewhere. And like you said, this was a week where I think a lot of teams are starting to trend in that direction.
Yeah, hang the banner. Don't pay attention to us anymore. It's all good. You don't need to talk about us anymore. So we'll talk about some of those teams. We'll talk about the 3 big questions from week 5 when we come back on the Ringer NFL Show. This is the Ringer NFL Show presented by FanDuel. And if you're betting on the NFL, FanDuel's the place to do it. They've got everything. Same game parlays, quick bets for when you want to jump in live, and your way so you can set your own lines. The app's fast, it's easy to use, and best of all, when you win, you get paid out instantly. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com/RingerNFL to get started. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available, and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states and 18 plus in D.C., Kentucky, and Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. All right, 3 big questions from week 5 with Diante. Question number 1, Diante. Which fan base should be most excited about how its quarterback played on Sunday? The Patriots, the Bucks, or the Seahawks? So I probably could have expanded this to more, but I mean, we had Drake Maye, big time performance on Sunday night. Patriots go to Buffalo as big underdogs and beat the Bills. Baker Mayfield was terrific once again in Tampa's win over Seattle. And then Sam Darnold, losing effort. We can talk about that. Throws the interception at the end, but I thought he was fantastic once again. So which fan base right now, the group chats are just like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to have this guy. We love this guy. Let's order this jersey for our kids. Who's feeling it right now?
You know, like, I don't want to be a coward and answer this from like a bunch of different perspectives, right? So I will say, like, my overall answer is actually Sam Darnold. Because when you consider free agency spending and what they spent on Darnold and what they decided not to spend on with Geno Smith, right? And I think that I'm going with that answer because it is multifold, right? You have to think about the quarterback you've got and how they're playing, and then what you ultimately allowed to leave the door and how that guy is at his next stop. But if we're talking like strictly within fan bases, right? Like if I were a Seahawks, a Buccaneers, or a Patriots fan, I think the answer then would probably be Drake Maye, right? Because I think that these first 5 weeks have kind of been a culmination of some of the things we were talking about on the last iteration of the show in the 2024 season, right? And Drake Maye showing a lot of strong potential, even though the Patriots weren't winning. And then you finally get in this prime time opportunity, and he looked like the best quarterback on the field. Like, and that's just not something you typically say about, you know, a game that involves Josh Allen, is that he's not the best quarterback on the field. And the fact that he did this, I don't want to be over the top, but I mean, as far as like MVP outside odds, like you'd have to be thinking through the first 5 games of the year that like this guy's playing quarterback as well, if not better than anybody else in the league.
Yeah, I thought the biggest thing on Sunday night was like, we talked to Nate Tice about this last week, where I watched last week and I was like, Josh McDaniels is like, this is my show, you know, just operate my offense. And that's kind of how Maye was playing. Not every snap. I understand there's always going to be times when he creates, but in this game against the Bills, it was like, all right, that balance between point guard and playmaker, I need to dial up the playmaker in this game because I'm going up against Josh Allen and not all the play calls are working. And I thought he was incredible doing that. How many times did he roll to it, escape pressure up the middle, rolled to his right and made a play? It felt like he completed every pass when he was doing that. The play on that last series, I mean, Patriots fans are going to be losing their minds about that play 100%. Where he's getting dragged down and somehow his knee does not touch the ground and he completes a pass to Stephon Diggs. And then he has another great pass in the turkey hole against cover 2 on the right side there, drives them into field goal range. So yeah, I think we're saying like, who's losing their minds the most about their quarterback right now after week 5? I'm with you. It's Drake Maye, but man, that Darnold Mayfield game was no joke either.
100%. And it's funny for all the conversations that we've had on and off the microphone, right, about who Baker Mayfield is as a quarterback and what he might not be. I think specifically was like Sam Darnold, right? What he was over the first end of his career, what he was and wasn't in Carolina, and now what we've seen in Minnesota and now here in Seattle. Like, we're talking about guys that have been written off at different points in their career as being fringe starter types and now look like quality guys that when you start looking at the playoff picture in the NFC, these are two teams because of their offenses that you have to really consider if you're at the top of your division right now thinking, I don't want to have to see this team. And I definitely don't want to have to travel, to Seattle or to Tampa Bay to have to see either of these guys in a playoff environment because they've been playing so strong. And Sunday was another example of that.
Those were the 2 best offensive performances I think actually behind the Colts, maybe the second and third best offensive performances by a team this season, the Bucs and the Seahawks going up. I mean, it felt like the ball didn't hit the ground for either guy. Yeah. And it was just 7 touchdowns in a row at one point in that game. I want to talk about both of them, but I have to say, like Sam Darnold, for like you said, people who have listened to the show know that I'm like, all right, everybody settle down a little bit on Sam Darnold. I thought that in the offseason, I thought this isn't going to work. I've already said that was wrong. I thought this might have been the best game of his career. I mean, he was 28 for 34, 341 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, had the interception at the end. It bounces off a Bucs player's helmet. Bad spot for that, but he had like no margin for error. And what I like, Diante, is this wasn't just like, all right, we're going to run, and then do a play action and chuck it downfield.
Dump it off into the flat.
Yeah. This was like, no, you need to create. All right, you're being pressured. He had the touchdown pass where he's being pressured. He escapes, throws it to the left side. I thought he was making high degree of difficulty throws. He was creating this entire game. Again, the ball's not hitting the ground. Do you know what quarterback leads the NFL success rate, EPA per pass play through the first 5 weeks of the season? You can probably guess.
I mean, it's got to be Sam Darnold. And I know this because I've been looking, right? I've been looking week over week. And you try to, extrapolate very particular weeks. And like, okay, against this defense, how'd you look against, the entire breadth of the season? And they've been top 5, top 8, top 3, no matter what week or what week range you're working with. It's been blowing me away, honestly, to see how he's operated. And like you said, I mean, we know what Sam Darnold is for the most part, right? This is a guy that is an ambitious passer. So you usually expect, if you turn on the Sam Darnold game and his team has 30 points, hey, maybe, he ripped a couple deep balls. And then there were a lot of bad incompletions that maybe didn't get picked off. Maybe he took a couple sacks, but he never changed his approach. I looked at the box score at one point and I'm like, this guy's like 23 of 27.
That's crazy.
That's not the Sam Darnold I know. And you're looking at him on third down. And he's just drilling these throws to Jackson Smith-Njigba, to Torrey Horton. You pointed out that touchdown that was on a 4th and 2 when he was under pressure and not on a clean platform to make that throw. You think about the throws to Cooper Kupp today as well. I mean, really, outside of that tipped off the helmet interception, and I thought a really poor decision by Clint Kubiak and Mike McDonald to take him off the field and put Jalen Milroe on to try to get tricky with that option play that ends up turning into a fumble and turnover. Like, Sam Darnold did exactly what you would ever ask him to do in a perfect offensive environment, and he delivered on that.
To your point, the Seahawks fans get the whole, like, I told you so. All right, where are all the people like Sheil Kapadia who said we're making a mistake going to Geno Smith and Clint Kubiak? And you should laugh at me right now. I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong about that. He looks incredible. And I would love to tell you, like, all right, settle down. It's 5 games. But my eyes are telling me this is a legit improved quarterback who's playing in the scheme he likes. And it's not a great supporting cast. I mean, Clint Kubiak, this offensive line, Jackson Smith and Jigba's great. It's not like everybody, it's not like the system is working for Sam Darnold. He is making things better in that system and really doing an incredible job. And then Baker Mayfield, man, he just, no Mike Evans in this game. Again, because you'll hear there's so much a quarterback analysis. All it is who do you want to make excuses for and who do you not want to make excuses for?
Yes.
He's got the new OC. He's got no Mike Evans. He's got a banged up Chris Godwin. He's got offensive linemen who are down. 29 for 33, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, I know the Seahawks had injuries on defense, but so did the Bucs, and Mayfield delivered once. Those two are like so fun to watch. I mean, I have not been like in the corner of either of these guys before, being like, man, he doesn't get enough respect. That was one of the most fun game, maybe the most fun game of the day to watch was those two quarterbacks.
By far, and I would say that like Baker Mayfield's doing it in a way that he hasn't basically since he's been in Tampa Bay, right? Like you think about the Dave Canales year, you think about the year last year with Liam Cohen. A lot of that was explosive run game or downhill run game to set up play action pass. Because they don't have the offensive line that they typically want to run behind, you're not seeing them do a lot of play action. And you're also putting more on Baker's plate in terms of managing messy pockets, right? Like having to create outside of structure. Him as a scrambler has just been blowing my mind, right? Every week he is caught dead to rights on some 2nd and 3rd and long. And you're like, okay, surely this is going to be the sack, or this is where he's going to have to throw the ball away, or this is where he makes a mistake because he's under this pressure. And the guy squirts out, and it's not just a scramble for 3 or 4 yards. He goes and finds 8, 9 yards to move the chains. And you're just like, you can't keep getting away with this. And he continues to do so. You don't think of him as being as creative a passer as what we've seen this year. I think that he has been helped immensely by Emeka Egbuka. And for me personally, I can't imagine a prospect that I've been like further off on. Maybe Isaiah Simmons coming out of Clemson. But for me, when I looked at Emeka Egbuka, I was like, this is not... I see a very productive guy. I see a very dependable guy. I don't see a guy that you can use as the engine of your passing game at the NFL level. And shame on me. Because, I mean, this dude has made acrobatic catches inside and outside the numbers, deep down the field and creating after the catch. He's checked every box. And Baker Mayfield, I think, has been excellent at, and we give Matthew Stafford a lot of credit for this, when he knows he has a guy and that guy can't be guarded, he is funneling targets to that player.
Spam it. Yeah.
100%. Make defenses bend, and call for mercy. And we've seen that this year, and that has done so much to lift this offense, who, like you said, has just been absolutely bombarded with injuries.
Yeah, you don't get extra credit for varying the passing game. If they can't guard the guy, throw it to the guy. All right, let's do. So you dropped the spicy May. Hey, maybe MVP. All right, so I'm doing this spontaneously here. Rank in order for me in likelihood. Drake May is a top 3 MVP vote getter at the end of the season. Okay. Sam Darnold is quarterbacking the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield is quarterbacking the Bucs in the Super Bowl. Those 3 most likely to least likely. Feel free to play along at home. Again, May, top 3 MVP candidate. Baker Mayfield is the quarterback in Santa Clara representing the NFC for the Bucs. Sam Darnold is the quarterback in Santa Clara representing the Seahawks in the NFC.
I think if you would have said that May had to be MVP runner-up or winner, I might have backed off of it. Top 3 is just enough wiggle room where if there's like a unanimous guy or there's a guy who gets like 98% of the first place votes, then maybe, you might throw a second place to this guy and he just kind of gets lifted. His aggregate score gets lifted in that way. So I'll go with Drake May being a top 3 MVP guy. For as much as I've liked Sam Darnold, for as much as I've liked Baker Mayfield over the last 2 years, I'm not ready to make that leap quite yet with those guys. And from last year, like I was probably the one guy on the podcast. I was like, hey man, I think I see it with Darnold. I think I see it with Mayfield. And I've been that way throughout this regular season, but still, like it's a long road to hoe from here. I don't necessarily know if the Bucs or Seahawks are likely enough to win the NFC for me to pick them to make the Super Bowl. But Drake May, by the numbers right now, certainly looks like a top 3 MVP level guy.
If you had to pick, so what would be 2? So May's 1. What's second in your order if you had to pick Bucs or Seahawks?
Second in my order would probably be Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and then third would be the Bucs.
All right, I'm going to go Bucs most likely. All right, they keep winning games. They're in a weak division. I'm going to go Seahawks number 2 because you made the case. Maybe once their defense gets healthy, they might win a lot of games. And if Darnold's playing like this, what's stopping them? And then I'll go Maye number 3, just because I don't know that the Patriots are going to get to the requisite amount of wins,
right?
The win total. So we'll see if they get there or not. All right, there you go. What'd you say at home? Agree with us, disagree with us. All right, let's take a break. We come back, we get to our next 2 questions. This episode is brought to you by American Eagle. Listen up. And you heard this from me first. American Eagle just launched the second drop of their exclusive limited edition collab with True Colors by Travis Kelce. And I'm pretty excited to see what new styles are out now. From incredibly comfy graphic tees to cool jackets to vintage inspired rugby sweatshirts, you're going to find something you love, guaranteed. Not only that, but American Eagle also has so many new arrivals that just dropped, from trending jean fits to cozy flannels to luxuriously soft sweaters and more. You can check it all out at ae.com or just head to the store. All right, we're back on the Ringer NFL show. All right, question number 2. Which previously unbeaten team should be more concerned with its first loss, the Eagles or the Bills? So the Eagles blow a 17-3 lead to the Broncos. The Bills, we mentioned, lose Sunday night against the Patriots. Which team should be more concerned with its first loss?
Oh man, every week I get blocked by more and more Eagles fans, and I feel like this is going to be another one where I'm going to find out that I have less and less access to some of my favorite Eagles fans' accounts. But it's got to be Philadelphia, man. Like, we're getting to can't hide from it. We can't talk around it. We can't lie about this anymore. But I want to kind of make this case statistically, right? Because so much of this, I think, gets hung up just as in the offseason with how you feel about Jalen Hurts specifically. And then you throw in all this A.J. Brown stuff and it turns into a big mess that I don't even really want to interface with for the sake of this show. But what I want to lay out is that Philadelphia is telling us who they are as an offense, and we continue to show up week after week trying to troubleshoot something that it does not seem like they want to fix. So if you look at the data, they don't want to throw on early downs. They have the second fewest first down pass rate in the NFL, only ahead of Buffalo. They don't really believe in play action, 5th lowest rate on early downs in the NFL. They don't ask their quarterback to get the ball out of his hands quickly. They have the 3rd fewest throws within 2.5 seconds in the NFL, only ahead of Buffalo, guy who can't be sacked, and Josh Allen, and another deep play action team, and Justin Fields, who we do not view as a proficient pocket, processing type of guy. So that's not a compliment to be holding the ball that long. And then with them not getting the ball out quickly, they don't throw it deep. They have the 2nd fewest rate of throws past the sticks in the league, only ahead of Pittsburgh. So if I'm telling you that a team doesn't want to use play action or RPOs, don't want to push the ball downfield, don't get the ball out of its quarterback's hands, and right now they are running the ball worse than at any other time in the Nick Sirianni era as head coach, what does that sound like to you but a bad offense? And if we did a blind taste test and took the logo off the side of the helmet and I just laid out these statistics to you, nobody in their right mind would say that offense is about to compete for another Super Bowl. We just can't talk around that anymore. Maybe something changes, right? Like bye week, they might have a come to Jesus moment. Everybody has it out in the locker room and you're able to kind of grow from there. Maybe Kevin Patullo figures something out midway through the season and they do land on an identity. Right now, everything they're doing is not working and not contributing to winning. And that's the reason why they lost this game on Sunday.
Well, what was most interesting about this game is that, I think they had the same data you had, and they're like, all right, we're going to do things differently today. We're going to come out passing and we're going to throw it downfield. And that ends up in a game where Saquon Barkley has 6 carries and they're throwing the football, a very high pass rate on early downs, and they come out in the first half and it's looking good. And then they come out in the second half and it looks terrible. They have 5 drives. They punt on 4 of them. Then the last possession to end the game against the Broncos, they have 3 first downs on 5 possessions. So it is this idea, there's that identity that you laid out. And then there's kind of like, all right, well, we are only it's almost an identity crisis. I feel like,
right.
They see those things and they're like, all right, last year we ran the ball a lot and we were really good running the ball. They come into the season, let's start doing that. Then that's not working out great. Then they're like, all right, A.J. Brown's unhappy. Maybe he's onto something. We've had a couple halves here where we throw the ball and it looks good. And then they come out and they throw the football. And then the team adjusts at halftime. And it's like, no, we're not going to play man coverage against you guys anymore. That didn't work in the first half. They play more zone, more simulated pressures. All right, let's not blitz Jalen Hurts. Let's just rush 4, but let's throw defensive backs his way, and they can't adjust to that. So it's just like they've had trouble finding answers throughout the course of a game. The last 2 weeks, the offense has looked good in the first half and it's looked terrible in the second half. And I know you said, you gave a very analytical thing, but you can't help but watch this team and be like, the vibes are terrible on offense. Guys are not happy.
It's just as bad as 2023. I'm sorry, guys. We can't talk around that anymore.
Yeah, that's not being dramatic or instigate. I mean, they're telling you, they had a double move to A.J. Brown in this game from the slot, and whether he, slowed up, he said he looked back and he didn't see the ball, so he thought the play was over, whatever. But it's like Jalen Hurts threw the football and it's overthrown, and then they show the replay and it's like A.J. Brown did not think the ball was coming his way or gave up on the play or what. So it's all these little things that just manifest themselves throughout the course of a game. And it's only one loss. They don't lose, they had won 20 of their previous 21, but I'm with you. I think you could tell me anything. Like you said, maybe they figure things out. And we're laughing about this in December, saying, man, remember in October when we were worried about this offense, they still have so much talent, but it certainly could go the other way. And just statistically, this is the worst the offense has been in any season with Jalen Hurts. And when you look at the talent on the roster and you look at some of the other teams we have talked about so far today, Patriots, Bucks, Seahawks, do any of those teams have more talent than the Eagles on offense? The answer would be no. I think overwhelmingly
no.
Yeah.
And we can sign off on this point. To me, maybe as a fan, right? If you're a fan of this team, to me, there should be nothing more frustrating than them having performances like this and them regularly coming to the podiums during the week and saying things like, we're just waiting for it to come to us. Wait. You're not the only team in the league that has a lot of offensive talent. Detroit has tons of offensive talent. I don't hear John Morton and Dan Campbell talking about, we're going to wait for the game to come to Jared Goff. They let you know from the jump, we are going to push your face mask in up front with the run game. And when we go play action, we are taking every yard that we can get aggressively. And we're going to be creative about it. We're going to be intentional about it. Everything is going to be tied and married together. Through 5 weeks, we have not seen a single instance where it looked like what Philadelphia is doing is married one concept to the next, one sequence of plays, setting up a later sequence of plays. You do not have to wait for a defense to give you something to take it. You have all pros all over the football field. When I watch Philadelphia's defense, that doesn't look like a defense that's saying, hey, we're just going to let the game come to us.
Right.
I see a defensive coordinator that says, if we can't get pressure with 4, then Zach Bond, you're my blitzer. Cooper DeJean, you're my blitzer. Andrew McCuba, you'll be my blitzer. That to me is a hallmark of a team that knows, or a side of the ball that knows how it wants to establish its identity. This team very much looks like they are 5 weeks into it's offensive coordinator's first time really calling plays at an NFL level. And that's really what's holding this team back right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. All right. 3, Diante, we'll finish with this. Which fan base should be the most bummed by the way its team played on Sunday? And there are a lot of candidates if you were watching the early window specifically, but man, Raiders lose to the Colts 40-6. Jets get crushed by the Cowboys. Banged up Ravens lose 44-10 to the Texans. Cardinals, I don't know how many people watched that Cardinals-Titans game. Cardinals had maybe the dumbest loss. Yeah, by any team this year. The Bengals look like maybe the worst team in the NFL. So you have a lot of candidates here, Diante, but which fan base should be most bummed by the way its team played on Sunday?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one to answer.
All right, let me go first because I have an answer.
Let you,
I have the Raiders. I have the Raiders, Diante, because this Darnold Geno thing, this is a wrap, man. It's over. I couldn't have been any more wrong. I said it earlier. Geno Smith is playing terrible football, and I know it's not a great situation. He's making the situation worse. 2 interceptions, 4 sacks today. He's got a league-high 9 interceptions. I thought this Raiders team had a chance to be a frisky team. I don't know how Chip Kelly is somehow. Where has he received any criticism this year? Because that offense, and I know their offensive line is injured, but my goodness, they're not good at anything. I'm waving the white flag, Diante. They stink. They're 1-4. They've been outscored by 56 points. Only the Titans and Bengals have been outscored by more. And the problem is with the rate for some of these other teams, you could say, okay, but light at the end of the tunnel, young player. The Raiders told us they wanted to be competitive this year. They have a 35-year-old quarterback right now. They hired Pete Carroll, and right now it looks like they're a complete disaster. And maybe there's a path to dig out of it. I don't see it. I think they got to be the most bummed fan base in the NFL right now. So that's my pick.
My thought was to go with Baltimore, but I think that might have been the answer last week, right? Because of all the injuries that were happening all at the same time. For me, I think that it actually might be off the beaten path. I'm kind of looking at the Chargers right now. And I think if you're looking at them and thinking about how often Justin Herbert has been getting hit in these games against defenses that should not be getting after him the way that they have been, a lot of this comes back to offensive line health. They regularly are setting themselves back on early downs. If Justin Herbert is not perfect as a first or second down passer, they don't really have many options, right? And it's not for lack of trying. I will say Greg Roman this year trying to get the ball out on the perimeter, trying to get away from this leaky offensive line, trying to avoid these third and obvious situations. There's just not much you can do when you can't run the ball between the tackles because your interior offensive line has problems, and you can't really set up a deep drop back passing game because both of your tackles are out. You're down to your third right tackle, I think, in this game, or third left tackle in this game.
Pipkins went out,
he had about as bad a performance as you'll see on Sunday, and you just see how these injuries are totally breaking down what looked like one of the NFL's best teams over the first month of the year. I think if you're a Chargers fan, you are probably waving the biggest red flag right now because you thought maybe you could be a sneaky contender, and you're looking at the flaws on this team, and you have to wonder if it's even fair to expect Justin Herbert to try to get you over that hump.
Yeah, I mean, when you're down 2 tackles and then you lose a tackle in the game, he's getting crushed. There were wild swings in that game where it looked like the Chargers actually had a chance. And then there were like 3 of those that just went completely against them. Ladd McConkey had the return for a touchdown that got called back. There were a couple more as well there. So you're right. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the Chargers as maybe a frisky Super Bowl contender, and the injuries just keep piling up for the Chargers. So yes, they should be pretty bummed as well. All right. Thank you to Diante Lee for joining me. I will be right back with the Hurry Up. The Hurry Up is where I give you a take on something happening in the NFL. And we talked about the Eagles earlier, but I just wanted to give the Broncos a shout out because they won that game. And I spent a lot of time making fun of Sean Payton for spreading what felt like propaganda about the Broncos all summer, telling anyone who would listen how great his team was. I think part of that was Payton likes the attention. He likes to shape the narrative. But I also think part of it might have been that he wanted his team to believe that it could play with anyone. And I think you saw that belief in the win over the Eagles. I mean, Denver's down 17-3 against an Eagles team that had won 20 of its last 21 games, defending Super Bowl champs, hadn't lost a home game since week 2 of last year. And they made a bunch of plays, and they outscored the Eagles 18-0 in the fourth quarter to leave Philadelphia with a 21-17 win. So there was a point in that game where the Broncos were down 17-10. They score a touchdown, and Payton went for 2. I love that decision so much. It was like he was saying, if we're going to beat the reigning champs, we have to take it. We're not here to just hang around. We're not here for a moral victory. And I do feel that them getting that 2-point conversion put some additional pressure on the Eagles. Broncos defense responds. Broncos escape with a victory there. So Bo Nix, 14 for 18, 163 yards in the second half. Courtland Sutton was terrific. Payton has been scheming up explosive opportunities every single week, as well as anyone in the NFL. And so if the goal was to get the Broncos to believe that they could beat any team in the league in any environment, I think you saw that in this game. So they're not a perfect team, but they're in a good spot, 3-2, tied for first place in the AFC West. They get the Jets in London next week. Then they get the Giants. They mostly got blown out by elite teams last year. So I think this was a big win for the Denver Broncos. All right, plenty more to come this week. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Christopher Sutton for producing and Kiera Givens on social. Additional production supervision by Conor Nevins and Arjuna Ramgopowell. We'll be back tomorrow on the Ringer NFL Show. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.